Hello everybody and welcome back to Dr. Ghost Games. If y'all new to the channel, welcome. I am Dr. Ghost and today we are going to be back in none other than the legendary tier destroyer, the Khabarovsk. Now, we are going to be trying something a little new with it. Actually, it's the same exact build I have had on my Khabarovsk for a while. However, the difference is we are going to be testing out the new buff to the main battery mod 3. Now, in case you guys aren't aware, main battery mod 3 basically increased the range of your main batteries by about 5%, which is by about a half a kilometer. Now, with the recent buff, they recently increased it to 10%, so therefore, you get a range increase of about 1 kilometer. So therefore, my firing range is currently 14 kilometers, and not to mention I have a 14% chance of setting a fire. So essentially, I am a mini cruiser. So it's a very fun build, and I have a fun game to show off with this little fire-breathing demon of a destroyer. It is going to be an absolutely phenomenal game in terms of raw damage and fires just being set. It's disgusting. Pyromaniacs, beware, because you all are going to love this one. Arsonists, trickle on in. You guys are gonna love this one, and I hope you all do enjoy it. Now, while the gameplay is running in the background, I'm gonna real quick go over what you guys should be doing in your Khabarovsk. Now, the Khabarovsk has 10 torpedoes, and they're only about 6 kilometer range base. Number one, in most Russian destroyers, except for like maybe the alternate line with the Udaloy and stuff like that, you should never be running torpedo builds. At least for the gunboat line, you should never, ever, ever run a torpedo build. Gunboats, or gunboating builds is the way to go on your Russian destroyers. Plain and simple. The Russians have a very, very interesting kind of way to play as well. At least in terms of their firing arcs. The Russians are essentially long-range gunfighters. And the reason why I say that is because of the firing arcs. The Russians are notorious for having very flat trajectories when it comes to their firing arcs. Now, that means you won't be able to lob islands as easily as you would, per se, in like an American destroyer. However, you are going to be able to get a lot of shells down range on a target a lot more easier. You won't have to worry about floaty shells as much from these Russian destroyers. So the Khabarovsk, it's a very, very vital gunboat here. The commander I have on here is Vladimir Tibetskoy. I have 26,000 hit points. I am running a kind of a full HP kind of build. I run the heals instead of the smoke. You guys can go whatever you want with. But whatever works for you. I do recommend, however, having Evil Sparks on, because Evil Sparks increases your fire chance from like 9% or whatever it is to like 14, essentially making you a light cruiser. It is disgusting. The amount of fires we set in this battle is disgusting. I played about 3 battles in this thing, and each one of them I had over like 15 fires set. And it makes it even better because this destroyer is like one of the fastest destroyers at legendary tier, except for like, of course, the Kleber. So you're going to be zipping around the map at about 40 knots plus some, and you're going to be burning people down every 2 seconds, setting a fire, and absolutely just cooking the enemy team. There's no other way of putting it. This thing is a fire-breathing menace, and building it for such, I think, is the best way you can do it. Torpedo build is that's a meme, if anything. You should never, ever spec into the torpedoes on your Khabarovsk, or really any Russian destroyers for that matter, in the gunboat line, except for like a few maybe. Now, we're up to 39,000 damage. We've got 7 fires set, 75 main battery hits. Remember, 14% fire chance, 8 guns. If you do the math, that's a 50+% fire chance every salvo if you can get all your guns to hit. It is just, it's just disgusting. There's no other way of putting it. Now, the one awesome thing also about the Khabarovsk is its armor. This thing is actually quite thick. It's got a few pieces of, I think it's like 70-80 millimeters of armor, which can actually ricochet battleship level armor piercing. It's pretty disgusting. Now, of course, all of these bonuses come with a nerf, right, or a downside. Not everything about this destroyer is great. Now, the one downside, one of the major downsides, is the maneuverability. In terms of turning and dodging stuff, it is very difficult to do. You've got a very, very bad rudder. Most cruisers can out-rudder you. The rudder is absolutely abysmal on the Khabarovsk. If you put some rudder mods on and stuff, I'm sure you can get that lower a bit. But for the most part, you're never going to dodge incoming, like, anything. Like, for example, see these torpedoes here? I'm struggling just to dodge these torpedoes. Like, I could have easily took one of those if I wasn't paying attention. Because this thing just does not turn very well at all. Now, we are in a gunfight with a Shimakaze. And keep in mind, when you have Evil Sparks on, it also nerfs your damage by about 30%. So we get a high fire chance, but we don't do as much damage. But it's still, we're doing a lot of damage. I mean, even with the negative nerf to our Evil Sparks thing, we're still absolutely pummeling this Shimakaze. And down he goes. That's our first kill of the game. Not too shabby. Now, basically the enemy team at this point, they're just sitting back. They're not being aggressive. They're not pushing in. So we don't really have to push the issue here. We could just sit here, farm them all day long, because they're not giving us a reason to make any crazy moves to take them out of the fight here. Essentially what I'm being is a support destroyer. There's no need for me to go into Charlie, and it's also very risky for me to go into Charlie because there's a Kronstadt there, and there's an enemy Colbert, and if that Kronstadt does radar me, that is very, very bad news for me. So there's really, honestly, no need for me to push into Charlie yet. We have the points lead. I don't need to make any crazy moves yet. Now we switch over to the AP because this thing has 130mm guns and it's Russian AP. It's very nasty, and look at the damage we're doing to them. We're up to 11 penetrations. We're just getting a few thousand every salvo. It's just disgusting, man. And not to mention, battleships and cruisers and destroyers will have a hard time hitting you, not because of your rudder, obviously, because the rudder's bad, but you're so fast. Like, you take off. Like, look at the speed we're going right now. 46 knots. It's actually very difficult to hit a Khabarovsk if he knows what he's doing. 1 minute you could be going 30 knots, and then boom, you just click yourself, go forwards, and now you're going 40-something knots. It's actually quite difficult to hit Khabarovsks because they're so freaking fast. A lot of people don't lead correctly, and they just fall short. And there's plenty of examples of that in this game that you guys can just look at for yourselves. There's really no need for me to explain. Now, the enemy Colbert there, Dozar, I've actually played against him yesterday a few times. He's been in quite a few of my Legendary games. And he's been particularly playing the Colbert quite a bit, I notice. I don't know him, but I've seen him quite a bit. And he's in almost every one of my Legendary games, funny enough. And every time I see him, he's in a Colbert. And here's an example of what I mean about the speed. He can't even, like, predict my speed here, and not to mention, I do have one of the rudder shift mods on. I think in the second slot. So I'm able to dodge some of these shells. But for the most part, he's not aiming far ahead enough to actually hit me. All of his shells are landing short, which is pretty hilarious because we're just so fast. Now, 12 fires, 104,000 damage into the game. We get our Witherer amazingly. And yeah, I mean, look at all their shells fall short, guys. Come on. You can't make this shit up, man. God, I love the Khabarovsk. This thing is a little freaking demon. Let me tell you. Just sit at range and just burn people down. It's a lot of people just don't expect it from a destroyer. They just don't. They don't expect a Khabarovsk to be spamming you down. So when they shoot at you, they expect, you know, to get at least a couple hits. But no, this thing has the speed of a freaking French destroyer, okay? This thing is fast as hell. So they're not able to hit me, like, consistently. It's hilarious. So we're just going to keep sitting here at range, farming these battleships here, and, of course, the cruisers. And, yeah, our team up to this point, I can't, you know, not give them credit here. They've done a great job. They've got 3 out of the 4 caps. We're up to 740 points, and they're down to 430 points. They're not doing too good at all. And I think that is because the enemy team has just been playing passive the whole time, and they rolled over on the opposite side of the map. And it's another one of those kind of one-sided one-trick pony matches. There's really no control over it. But then again, on this flank, these guys have been playing extremely passive up to this point. They're actually in the cap, but it's a little too late for that. Our whole team is here, and we're just going to absolutely deck them, burn them down, whatever you need to do to kill them. And that's about it. I mean, yeah, it's just disgusting, man. It really is. It is just disgusting. There's not a whole lot the enemy team can do in this kind of situation, except just take the beating. So, yeah. Now we're up to 17 fires, 314 main battery hits. We're still just absolutely burning these people down, with impunity, really, no matter what. There's nothing these guys can do about it. It's absolutely just... It's fun. It is just maximum fun. And if you guys haven't picked up the Khabarovsk yet out of the Bureau, I do strongly suggest it, especially if you like the gunboating kind of destroyers, and especially if you like the HE slinging gunboats where they burn people down at 14 plus kilometers with the right build. Man, it is just pure fun. It really is. Now, the last ship alive is this enemy Kronstadt. He is basically on no HP. All he needs is a few hits, and he is going to go down. It looks like one of our cruisers that's behind him is actually going to take him out any second, and down he goes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the match and the end of this video. Let's see how we fared here. So we got a victory, of course, hotspot domination, 138,000 damage, a whole bunch of fires set. I mean, 3,000 base XP. What else can you say, baby? That's what I'm talking about. If you guys liked it, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you guys thought, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out, stay healthy, as always.